excited to meet you finally. I loved the show.
Thank you.
I thought it was fantastic. And I hear you're recording series 2.
Oh, so you do know? Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
Yeah. I did say to Michael, don't say anything because we don't know.
No, they told us.
Okay.
They told us. And it's going to be on Netflix.
Yes, the first series
It's going to be
is.
world.
Australians and now the world have fallen in love with a man named Michael.
Hello, my name is Michael, and I'm happen to be a 25-year-old man.
And if you don't know why, you're about to. From Mamma Mia, I'm Mia Friedman, and you're listening to No Filter, a weekly interview podcast with people who tell their stories very candidly and aren't afraid to be all kinds of vulnerable.
You must be used to being filmed by now.
Yep.
Are you?
Loves it.
Do you love it?
Yes. In fact, even though I knew there were cameras around, I wasn't even nervous by them.
Do you mean when you were filming or now?
Both.
All the time.
Yeah.
At the end of 2019, the ABC released a 4-part documentary series called Love on the Spectrum that told the stories of young adults on the autism spectrum who were dating, in relationships, and falling in love for the first time. One of those young adults on the series is a man called Michael.
He's actually like Michael Jackson like that. So off camera, Michael Jackson was like, you think, oh, okay.
And then just comes to life in front of the camera.
In front of the camera, you just say, wow, who's that? Who's the same?
Love it. Come in.
At 26,
Hi.
Michael's dream in life is to become a husband,
yes.
and he is so determined to reach this goal that he has a pair of love ducks that sits on his bedside table at his home in Wollongong, where he lives with his family. Today on the show, Michael and his mum Vanessa join me in the Mamma Mia studios to talk about everything from love in lockdown to why finding a partner is so very important to him.
Oh, that's better.
And just a note, you'll hear Michael's mum, Vanessa, laughing in the background through some of this chat. It is such a beautiful testament to how much she loves and encourages her son. Watching them interact is just a beautiful thing to behold. So here is Australia's favourite person right now, Michael, with a little help from his mum, Vanessa.
Michael, how's lockdown been for you?
Honestly, I haven't really been enjoying it because the whole virus thing has been making me feel down. And plus, I've actually been concerned about Victoria. One of my best friends lives outside Melbourne. And I'm kind of concerned about New South Wales. I'm hoping that New South Wales won't end up in the same fate.
When we were in lockdown, did it put a little bit of a dampener on your dating life?
Kind of. But it did not really make much of a difference because I don't normally go out much because I spend pretty much most of my time at home when I'm not working.
How old are you?
26.
And what made you decide to be in this show, Love on the Spectrum?
Well, it's because I like to meet a woman and eventually settle down, but I always had trouble doing so because I got nobody to spend time with most of the time. Also, I'll explain how I was discovered by Northern Pictures. I'm with a company called At Work Australia. They help people with disabilities look for employment, build up their resume, improve on their interview skills, all those things. I spoke to my cast manager one day early last year. I mentioned that I'd like to get out there and meet new people. And when Northern Pictures contacted At Work Australia for any potential candidates, they recommended me.
And then what happened?
They gave me a brief interview over the phone. And
Did they ask personal questions?
I think they did, but I don't quite remember what they asked me. But I explained to them what I'm like as a person and that I'd like to be with a woman eventually.
Do you remember the first time you had a crush on a girl?
Yes, I did. That was 10 years ago. But she didn't reciprocate the feelings.
Who was she?
I'll only mention that her first name is Rhiannon. But because feelings weren't reciprocated, I did learn one thing. Never fall for a girl just because she's hot.
Yeah, it can be hard though, can't it?
Yeah.
Was she hot, Rhiannon?
Well, in appearance she was. But my dad did explain to me something once. The reason why I had this crush is because God gave me a glimpse of what it's like to fall in love. And the way I interpret it, that kind of also seemed like a bit of a foreshadow.
In what way?
That I would eventually meet somebody who eventually want to go out with me.
And so things didn't work out with Rhiannon.
No, it didn't. In fact, we were just friends. It never went beyond that. Not at all.
Did you go to a school with girls?
Yeah.
What did you learn about girls being at school with them?
Okay. What I'm going to say is very blunt. All I know is a lot of high school girls are very immature and they can be quite shallow as well. And whenever they had a boyfriend, I noticed something about them. Whenever they had a boyfriend, they start acting like as if they've just returned from a 4-week honeymoon in Paris. I'll explain. It becomes the sole focus of their attention to the point that it practically becomes an obsession. And then she starts sighing in a dreamlike state or even starts boasting about it to her circle of friends. But unfortunately, there's only one thing that this girl's unaware of. It's only a matter of time before the relationship fails and then her happiness dies along with it. Then afterwards, she sinks into a deep depression, possibly even thinking that her life is over, until finally she has no choice but to accept that's reality and move on. Just because you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that doesn't make them part of your family, unless you're intending to marry each other. Because then that could be the start of accepting that person to your family.
And that doesn't happen at high school because those relationships, 4 weeks is quite a long time in high school to be with someone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you have lots of girls who were friends when you were at school?
Yes, I did. I was quite popular at Wollongong High. That's the school I went to. But I was also a very unique type of person there.
How so?
Let's just put it this way. My brother once called me this in high school. He once called me the school grump.
That's a bit harsh, Michael.
I actually liked that term.
You thought it was a good thing.
Yeah, because I was actually the grumpiest person in high school.
What made you grumpy?
I just hated school because the students were irritating non-stop and there was a lot of paperwork to be done. And me and paperwork just don't mix.
Michael, you're on a show called Love on the Spectrum.
Yes.
Obviously, that suggests that you are on the spectrum. What does that mean?
What I mean is that I actually have Asperger's. Asperger's is a mild form of autism. It's just something that I was born with. But I don't see it as a disability. It's just something to be proud of.
When did you first hear the word Asperger's?
Well, when I was in primary school, I was completely unaware that I had it. But then next year, in 2007, the year I started high school, my mother finally revealed to me that I had it. The reason why she decided to wait until then is because she knew that I wouldn't understand what Asperger's meant.
It's quite a hard thing to understand, isn't it?
For some people it is.
How was it explained to you?
Well, if you want, you can ask my mother.
She's right here. Here's one we prepared earlier. Vanessa.
Yeah, hi.
I heard you laughing along there.
It's the way he puts it.
He's got away with words, your son.
Yeah. He says it in such a way where you've got to say, well, yeah, it kind of is true what you're saying about girls and boys and relationships, but it's just the way he puts it that makes it funny.
One of the most beautiful things about the series, there were so many, but watching your family interact with each other. You've got a great family, Michael, such a great family. And I loved how you took such delight in Michael's take on life. Is he your youngest?
No, eldest.
He's your eldest. So you had nothing to compare him to when he was a little kid?
No, I had no idea what was right, what wasn't. I knew something was wrong, but it was...
How did you know? What did you see?
The preschool... Oh, no, it was even before he went to preschool because he wasn't speaking. And I thought that wasn't right. But I thought, maybe he's just a late talker. That does happen. And then because I had nothing to compare him from, and it was just me and him playing through the day, I couldn't put my finger on it. I did take him to the doctor. The doctor said, you're just overworrying. You're an overworrying mother. And I thought, okay, fair enough.
Besides the not talking so much, what else did you notice when he was little?
It was just more the non-communication. But probably we formed our own way of communicating through animation and it just became normal then. For us, it became normal and he was just a kid,
Yeah.
So
when you say animation, you've got a big smile on your face. Michael, what's your memories of that?
Well, let's just put it this way. In 1997, a certain British children's show, I developed a passion for that show. And
what was it?
Thomas the Tank Engine.
yeah.
Loved that show for a long time. And even when I was growing up, I found it very hard to grow out of it because my passion for it is too deep and too powerful.
What did you love about it?
Everything about it. I just loved the concept of railways and steam engines. And in fact, I've actually been studying the show for years.
Do you still watch it sometimes?
Yes.
And do you collect the trains?
Certain ones.
So, Vanessa, he went to kindy or went to preschool.
Preschool, yeah.
And then what happened?
They did point out that there were some differences and that I should get him checked out. And we did discover that he had gluey, and they did point out that he wasn't speaking. So I just thought, oh, well, it must just be because of the gluey, because the doctor said, like he was very frustrated.
So that's when your ears are blocked and you can't hear very well.
That's right. And he was getting a lot of ear infections. So the specialist said that, he saw Michael's behaviour and went, oh, this is frustration, this is upset. He's constantly having ear infections. This is not good. You'll find that once he's got the grommets in, he'll be talking again, he'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. So, I was hoping that would just be it. But the preschool seemed to think, no, I think you need to look into this a bit further. And in the end, it turned out that, we did go to a childhood psychiatrist, and he said that he didn't know for sure if it was. He said if he is, he's very high functioning.
This was 23 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. And time will tell. So by the time he had to go to school, I could see that he wasn't quite right for school when I compared him against other children. But then also, if it was autism, I was just never going to put him in the school for autism, full stop, end of story. It just wasn't even a discussion. Because
why is that?
In my mind, if I was to put Michael in a school for autism, I believe we are opening the door to reinforcing autistic behaviours, and I wanted to break those. And
what were some of those behaviours that you noticed that you were keen to break?
Okay, some of the obsessions, and it's okay to have that, but so long as we can bring that back a bit and not have it as strong.
Because kids are often obsessed with Thomas the Tank or Paw Patrol or the Wiggles or whatever it happened to be. What were some of the other things that you got really into as a kid, Michael?
Well, I got into Disney as well. They just do the best animation.
Yeah, they do. So you liked watching animated movies and stuff.
But for people with autism, they see the world in an animated way.
Yeah.
They don't see what you and I are seeing. They see animation.
Explain that to me, Michael.
I have no way to explain it.
I suppose you don't have anything to compare it to because it's just how you see the world.
Not really.
How did you become aware of this, Vanessa?
Because I saw that in his behaviour. So he was very animated. And so I thought, okay, I made that correlation and thought, well, he must be seeing the world this way. This is why he is this way. We filter what we see. He doesn't filter what he sees. So that's why it becomes a very sensory experience, his whole being. Every sound, every visualization, every move that you make, for him that's animated.
So can the world feel a bit too loud sometimes and a bit too much?
Yes. Places like Melbourne and Sydney, I actually dislike being in those areas because I absolutely hate loud noises, including applause and chants. Yeah.
And big, lots of traffic noises, loud things.
I much prefer to be in nature because ever since I was a kid, I developed a passion and love for nature and animals.
Why do you think that is?
As I was growing up, my dad explained a lot of it to me. All of it had one thing in common. They're all things created by God, which my father and I referred to as our loving creator.
And Vanessa, was the decision to send him to a mainstream school proven to be the right one?
Yes, it was a hard slog. I wouldn't do it any differently because I think it shaped him into who he is right now. I guess there was a stage when he was becoming a teenager where I thought, let's see what kind of social networking groups I could find for him, which there were none. Well, there was one small group, and I think that if Michael was raised from young with these kids, it would have been different. But introducing him to this after he'd been in a mainstream school just didn't work out. But I was with a group of children with varying disabilities, and Michael just looked at me and whispered, what are we doing here? And I said, right, that's it, let's go.
What's your memory of that, Michael? What did you think?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, really?
No.
You were little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was about 12, 13, and it didn't work out. That's because he was brought up with just neurotypical people. He certainly does affiliate more with neurotypical people. He doesn't identify with non-neurotypical as much.
Yeah.
They may be Asperger's and he sees that. But then what he'll do is he'll compare himself, go, oh, I'm not as bad as him.
Yeah, right. So do you prefer being with neurotypical people rather than neuroatypical people?
Yeah.
Do you find that it's harder to be accepted by neurotypical people?
Not really. I never really had any trouble with that.
Was there a certain point where you realised, I think I see the world a bit differently to a lot of other people?
Maybe when I was still going through high school, because as I was finishing high school and going into my 20s, I started to look at the world more realistically, and I increasingly became more aware of things.
What kind of things?
Like what's happening in the world, what's going on around me, those things.
Did a lot of your friends start having girlfriends and boyfriends in high school?
A few of them did, yes.
And did you wish you could be that as well?
Yes, I did. But the thing is, until I was 17, I wasn't allowed to have one because my parents knew there would be a distraction from my studies.
Actually, none of our kids were allowed to. It wasn't just you.
No.
It's only because I feel like at that age they're emotionally not mature enough.
No.
Yeah,
to
but what
cope
about
with that.
hormones, Vanessa?
They'll wait.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
Yes, I know.
And so do the pants sometimes.
Yes.
They'll get it one day.
How many kids have you got?
3.
How old are they?
There's 26, 23 and 21.
And so what's your relationship like with your siblings?
Actually, it's just I treat them with a lot of love, respect, and dignity, but I'm not really close to either of them.
In what way? Like, what's not close about your relationship?
They don't share any of my passions, and they're very different for me. They have different viewpoints as well.
What are some of the ways that you differ, do you think?
Honestly, have no idea how to explain that.
There's some funny scenes in the show between you and your brother.
I often compare myself to Adam, my brother, a lot, which is a big mistake. I would often label him as a fresh cut of meat from God and myself as a double scoop of dog shit.
Why on earth he wanted to compare himself to me, I don't know, but...
It's because I've often felt inferior to my brother. Adam was able to get himself in a relationship easily, whereas I had trouble doing so.
I can't remember if you're giving him romantic advice or he's giving you dating advice.
Actually, it was him that was giving me advice.
Speaking of which, this bit of paper that Adam gave me, I'll be keeping this on my person.
What is it?
Just dating points.
Oh, okay.
Dating advice.
Can you tell that story for people who might not have seen that episode?
Sure. My brother was just giving me some dating advice because he's been in and out of relationships numerous times when he was in high school. Back when he was a teenager, he was a bit of a Casanova, per se.
Really?
Yeah. But with me, I was the kind of person that knew that if I tried to be like that, women would just see me as a creep.
You think so?
Yeah, because women are very delicate people who require a lot of respect. In fact, I've actually been trying to remind women that for years.
You think some women don't respect themselves, right?
That could be a link as well. It's because, you see, I actually find the lack of respect a lot of women get from men very appalling and hard to see, and not to mention hear.
When you think of, your ideal partner, who do you think of?
Basically somebody who comes from a good family with old school values, has a good heart, does not go around doing the wrong thing, breaking the law and taking drugs and doing all that crap. Somebody that is hardworking, takes her responsibility seriously, and somebody who's very intelligent, because intelligence is a quality that I'm very attracted to in women.
You're listening to No Filter with me, Mia Friedman, talking to Michael from Love on the Spectrum.
What was the process of doing the show like? There was the girl that you met first and went on a date with. I think you were matched with her. How'd that go?
The first one was actually the Headlands Hotel in Austinmere. That date was lovely, but not amazing. She just wasn't for me.
How can you tell?
It's because I just didn't feel anything.
Yeah, like you did for Rhiannon in high school.
Yeah.
Were there girls after Rhiannon that you had crushes on or that you tried to date?
No. None. Because most of them had boyfriends. And because I don't waste my time pursuing women that have boyfriends.
How do you prepare for a date before you go out?
I would mostly get dating advice from my brother or dad.
What about your sister and your mum? They can give you some insights into women.
Yes, they could as well.
Where are some of the places that you can meet girls, do you think?
I honestly have no clue about that either.
Are you on the apps? Dating apps?
Only one.
Which one?
It's called Bumble, but I feel like I'm wasting my time.
Why?
Because I'm not getting anywhere with anyone.
Must be frustrating.
It is. In fact, I was on a dating website 2 years ago on eHarmony, and that was a waste of both my time and my money. $240 down the drain.
What's the process of going onto these apps and then communicating with people? I haven't been on one. How does it work?
I would have to put in my email address and set up a password and make up a profile of myself, and then just click on which people I'm interested in and which I'm not interested in.
And what do you say in your profile?
Basically, I just describe myself as a person.
And what your interests are and
Yeah.
who you want to meet. So have you had any interesting dates?
Not so far.
There's one that was shown on the show where she became a bit anxious and
Yeah.
she had to go home, and that must have been really tough for both of you.
Well, for her it was, but for me it was a bit of a disappointment. But the thing is, that girl and I are different from each other. She lives in Campbelltown for a start, which is too far away, and she's not into formal things. I'm a very refined, formal gentleman.
You really are, Michael. You're wearing a beautiful suit with a tie and is that a tie clip?
Yep,
And a pocket square.
yep.
You really dressed up. I really appreciate how much you dressed up for today. Did you put a lot of thought into your outfit?
Actually, I was already planning to wear these clothes anyway. I barely get an opportunity to wear clothes like this, much to my frustration.
You like to get dressed up.
Yep. After many years growing up watching a father wear the same clothes to work every day, it grows on you.
Does he wear a suit to work?
He does.
And you want to be like him?
Yeah. All I can say about my dad is he's a really great man. He's full of wisdom, and he has given me a lot of guidance over
He's
the
a great
years.
role model to you, right?
He is.
Can you imagine living out of home one day?
Yes, I can, but not very far away.
No. What would it take, Vanessa, to have Michael living independently? Is that the aim?
Yeah, it is the aim, and he's working towards it. He's working towards buying his first home. That's in the horizon.
You must be a good saver, Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because I spent a lot of my time listening to both my parents, my dad in particular.
Do you worry about him sometimes, Vanessa? Was there a time after his diagnosis where did it come as a relief or it made you concerned for his future?
There was always concern because there were a lot of behaviours that I could see needed to be modified. It's not something that you can fix. It's there. But I think that as much as you can normalise someone, I feel for us, and everyone's going to have their own view, and with total respect to anybody with a child with autism, every parent has to handle it their way. But for us, the way I see it, we live in a society with neurotypical people. And if you want to one day leave this earth and know that they can stand on their own 2 feet, I knew that to do that, I had to normalise him as much as possible, which means make him not just physically but emotionally independent. You know, people just think physical independence, and that's great, but your emotional independence.
Can you explain what you mean by emotional independence?
The ability to think for yourself and not just copy what somebody else is saying, which is what he used to do. If you'd say, this table is pink, he'd go, yep, it's pink. Is it pink? And this is how we started out. So it was the ability to think for himself, to have his own views, form his own views, not just take what somebody else says and say, well, then that's it. No. So it was teaching him how to do that. It was teaching him how to self-soothe when he's upset. It's teaching him that if he can't self-soothe, what can I do? What are my resources? Because the last thing you want are siblings that feel that they have a burden. That's not good for them, nor is it good for Mike.
Can you think, Michael, of ways that you're now more emotionally and physically independent than you used to be? Going on dates, I imagine, by yourself.
Yes.
That's pretty independent.
I wouldn't bring somebody to watch me, no.
Except a TV crew when you're making the show.
That's a bit of a different story.
It sure is. Have you had any dates since then?
Nope.
But you're hoping to again?
Yes.
What do you think you'll do if you don't find someone?
I wouldn't know what to do because I can't embrace the idea of being single my entire life because to me, that's unfulfillment. That means no purpose in life.
You know, it's funny when we talk to girls, we try to say to them, a man won't fulfill you, like a man won't complete you, and you have to be complete yourself before you find a partner. Do you ever think that you have to not look at someone to complete you, or do you genuinely feel like you're incomplete until you find someone to be with?
I don't really feel incomplete. I just feel like there's a part of the puzzle missing.
That connection and that companionship.
Yes.
What do you imagine it would be like if you found someone? What would you do together?
We would do anything we wanted to do together. Dance together, go to the cinemas, take her out to dinner, go overseas together when we're able to again.
Imagine that. When you think about yourself with this hypothetical partner, do you imagine that it's someone neurotypical or neuroatypical, or do you don't mind?
Neurotypical.
Sounds like you're a little bit prejudiced against people who are neuroatypical. Are you?
Nope, definitely not.
What is it about them that's just not your jam?
Nothing about them.
He has some Aspie friends.
Yeah, I do. 2 of them, actually. Those 2 are my closest male friends because they're the ones I have the most common ground with. People that are atypical, I'm happy to be friends with them, no question, no doubt. But when it comes to a relationship, a marriage, I see myself with somebody who's neurotypical.
Do you think that's because they'll be more independent?
I guess you can say that.
Because in the show they were matching you with people who were atypical, weren't they?
Yeah.
And what about the coaching that you got from that woman? Was that helpful? What did she tell you to do and not to do?
Well, she basically just instructed me that in order for a relationship to start, it has to start with a friendship. That was mostly helpful. And we also have monthly catch-ups on Skype.
Oh, do you? Still?
Yeah. We just decided to start doing it.
Okay, so here's your pitch. You've got lots of women who are listening to this. I'll hand over the mic to you. What would you like to tell them?
I would like to say one thing to them. If any fine lady in her 20s is willing to go out with a refined, romantic, loyal gentleman such as myself and have the best time of your life, I can definitely make that happen. And if any women in their 20s is interested, you'll have to contact this email address, lots@northernpictures.com.au.
lots@northernpictures.com.au. We'll definitely put a link in our show notes.
Excellent.
Michael, I hope you find what you're looking for. She'll be a very lucky lady.
You would not believe how many people have told me that.
I just want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
What do you think women are looking for?
Well, all I can say is women like to look for a man that will be able to take care of them and themselves. In other words, be a hard worker at their job and be the loving husband that will come home to them every evening and will be a great father to their kids.
What's the most confusing thing about women?
For me, there's quite a few things. Well, firstly, I can say that what goes on in a woman's head, I don't always understand. But what goes on in a woman's heart will never disappoint me.
That's beautiful.
In fact, I actually made a philosophy on women's beauty.
Please share it.
Sure. There are many things in this world that highlight the features of a woman's exterior. Fashion, clothes, hair, makeup, shoes, jewelry, cosmetics, glasses, and many other things like that. But none of those things matter. Not even a little. If a man wants to look for true beauty in a woman, the only place he'll find it is in her heart, because that's where her true beauty lies.
And do you think the same goes for you?
Yeah.
About your beauty and what makes you attractive?
Yes. That applies to everyone.
You got a big heart, right?
Yeah. I'm basically a teddy bear.
He is.
Vanessa, does your heart go into your mouth every time he goes out on dates or when he's interested in someone? You seem very relaxed about it.
I am, because, whatever will be, will be. I can't sit there and go, oh, I hope. I can't do that because, the one thing I have learnt with Michael is that he is such an expert at body language comes back to all the animation, all of that. He's learned how to read people so well that this much of a change in my behaviour, and he picks up on it straight away. And he won't come and ask me. He'll just come in a roundabout way and go, "Things okay, Mum? Yeah, everything's great. Are you sure? Perfect. Is it really that perfect, Mum?" You know? So
what do you notice, Michael?
If a woman is behaving in a way that you wouldn't expect, in other words, if she's feeling down but she's trying her best to hide it and act like she's all cool, I would say to her, "I hear that you're okay, but why do I get the impression that secretly you're not?"
You're very perceptive, and that's interesting because some people think that people who have autism are not in tune emotionally and are not good at reading signals. But that, along with all the eye contact that you make, they're two, I suppose it's called a spectrum for a reason, because you are extraordinary with eye contact. You've got beautiful eyes and you look very directly.
But he for a long time wasn't that way. And that goes back to what I was thinking when he was young. I wasn't prepared to just accept what I had. I needed to work with it, because you never know what you can get out of it. You never know how somebody can flourish and transform.
So eye contact is learned behaviour. Do you have to still force yourself to do that, Michael, or it comes naturally now?
A bit of both, actually, because my eyes do tend to wander sometimes. But that's not because I'm disinterested. That's just a habit that I've always had.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that.
That's because to you and I, we can filter. So I can filter everything here, both visually and in audio, and just look at you and listen to you. But with Michael cannot filter what he's seeing. He's seeing you and he's seeing everything else. He's hearing you, but he's also hearing that hum in the background, something in the aircon. He's hearing everything
That
down
must be
to
tiring.
the most smallest hum. It is. By the end of the day, he can be exhausted.
What do you do to relax?
My idea of relaxing is I spend my time in my bedroom. I call it my quarters, and I use it to do either acting, which is my passion, and watching television.
What are your favourite shows?
There's a few, actually. SpongeBob is one of them.
It's pretty funny.
Rick and Morty.
Very funny.
Modern Family.
Yeah?
Gilligan's Island. Love that since I was 13.
So good. An oldie but a goodie, Gilligan's Island. It's a real classic.
In fact, the Skipper is my favourite character in that show.
The Skipper. I like Ginger.
Ginger's a princess.
She is. Maybe that's why I like her. Is Marianne more your type?
Yeah, and because Marianne is not in love with herself.
No, Ginger's very vain.
Exactly. Any woman who's vain, this is how I describe it. If you wear a dress and your reflection is your true love, you're a princess.
No princesses for you. Princesses need not apply.
No.
Right?
Because unfortunately, I don't have time for things that are too much work.
So you want someone who's not too high maintenance.
Exactly. Somebody who's able to take some of the weight on their shoulders too. But I wouldn't leave all the work to her. I would do my share as well.
Of course you would.
Yes.
Where have you learnt about relationships from?
I've learned about it from my dad, from my brother, from my mother, and a bit from my sister, and a few other things along the way.
Fantastic. Michael, I wish you so much luck and love.
Thanks.
It's been beautiful to see your journey.
Thanks.
And I can't wait for season 2.
Us too.
Thanks.
Oh man, ladies, if you know anyone, put them in contact with Michael. He is an absolute delight. And if you haven't watched Love on the Spectrum, please do. You can find it on Netflix. Michael's very excited about this because it means that his quest for love has now gone global and he is so very eligible. It's a wonderful thing to watch and it really lifts the heart. If you like this episode, if you enjoyed it, and I know so many of you are writing to me with lovely messages about how this podcast is helping you during a time that's very difficult and very lonely for so many people. If I could ask one thing in return, it is that you go and leave a review on iTunes. That would be so awesome. Also, send it to a friend. Tell more people about No Filter so we can keep making the show. This episode was produced by Leah Porges. The executive producer of No Filter is Eliza Ratliff. I'm Mia Friedman, and I'll see you on mamamia.com.au. Lots of love.